Howard men's basketball head coach, hear me right, head coach Kenny Blakeney says he wants to sell 1/3 of the team. I didn't even know he could do that. Oh, yeah. It's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And though the sports may not be sporting the way that you want, they are on the horizon. And with them being on the horizon, go ahead and go to FanDuel.com to make every moment more. All summer long, and it's almost over, all customers, new and returning, will get a daily boost or bonus every single day, every single person, all summer long. We wrap up today's episode with a look at the Buck Buchanan Award watch list members. There are 4 HBCU players that are on that list. Prior to that, FAMU is doing Patrick Crarey all wrong with the contract situation. We're catching up on some of the things that came up from last week because it does feel really good. It feels really good to be here with you guys and record an episode that's dropping immediately. I recorded a couple of episodes ahead of time, so we didn't get to Patrick Crarey, but we will do that in segment 2. Before we get to segment 1, I do want to say rest in peace to Terrence Howard, the Alabama transfer who was going to North Carolina Central. It was announced last week that he passed away, so rest in peace to him, and condolences to the family, of course. Now, with that being said, can you sell a college basketball team? Is that possible? Because collegiate athletics is constantly changing. I feel as if you took a 2 to 3 year break, not even 3 year, man, 3, you probably have to go back to school. If you took a 2-year break from collegiate athletics and returned, you would probably be lost. That's how fast it feels like the landscape is changing. The transfer portal is changing. It used to be where you could only go to one school. If you went to a big school, you had to sit out. Then you could go anywhere. Now you don't have to sit out. There's so many changes in collegiate athletics. And Kenny Blakeney, the head coach of Howard men's basketball, is trying to be the latest to drive innovation and change because he said he wants to sell 1/3 of Howard men's basketball for $100 million. Now, when I first heard that, my first thought was, you can sell a college team? My second thought was, Howard men's basketball is worth $100 million. My third thought was, only a third of Howard men's basketball is worth $100 million, which means it's probably worth $300 million total. My fourth thought was, can Kenny Blakeney even do that? I ain't going to answer 1 or 2 and 3 because whatever you get is what you're worth, and that is its own independent answer. But I can talk about my first thought, and I can talk about my second thought. And it tells me that Kenny Blakeney thinks he can do this because he's taken a lot of steps forward, and it's all on him. Now, when I'm looking at this, you're reading this article. It came out by the Washington Post. If you pay for the Washington Post, I originally saw it on Front Office Press. I believe that's what it's called. Front Office Press. Front Office Sports. There we go. So I originally saw this article on Front Office Sports, and everything that was in my head was, can Kenny Blakeney do that? Why has no one ever tried to do this? Of all the lucrative universities that are out there, why has nobody ever tried to sell a sports team on the collegiate level? Really makes me feel like you can't do this. Makes me feel like nobody thought about doing this, right? Because you would have heard about it or something. This is a truly innovative move. This is This isn't even innovative. This feels inventive. This doesn't feel like he built on top of anything. Yes, we're talking about the idea of collegiate sports becoming a business, and he took that and spun it into a different direction. But selling a college team, if you've heard of this, please let me know. If you understand how this works completely, please drop that in the comment section. Send it to a business major if you have to, because I'm not too proud to say that I don't have all of the answers. And I did a little bit of digging to try to understand the worth of the university's basketball program. And that's why I'm not talking about it, because I didn't feel overly confident. But when you're looking at Kenny Blakeney being a head coach, that's the reason I stressed that in the opening. He is a head coach who is saying, I'm going to sell a third of the team, as if he owns a third of the team. There are a lot of things in here that personally do not make sense. In my opinion, this sounds very much so like an investment with a lot of extra perks that make it more than an investment. So they're saying selling. But the core principle of this feels like an investment to me. It feels like a sponsorship to me. That's what it feels like. But I don't think you can invest. I don't think you can sponsor a third of a program. So it has to be a selling. The reason I'm confused is because A, it makes it sound as if Kenny Blakeney has a third of the program to sell. B, if he did sell it, why does he still have all of the creative control? That's the part that sounds like an investment. He is selling or he is trying to. He is desiring. They made it abundantly clear in the article. He has not spoken to his bosses. I don't necessarily know if that's an accident. I think that Kenny Blakeney has not spoken to his bosses, not because he's doing something that he believes to be inherently wrong, but I think he's doing something that he knows will probably get shut down or probably get discarded. Shut down sounds like he's doing something wrong. I think that Kenny Blakeney is not going to his bosses yet because he wants to make sure that he has everything in order so that they understand that this is a good idea. I think he understands that this is a principle. This is an idea that a lot of people are probably going to approach with hesitancy. A lot of people are probably not going to want to do this. You have to lay out everything in front of them on how it would work, why it's a good idea, how it moves in the years going forward, because not everybody is a forward-thinking person. So you have to put it all on the table for those people. Right. And I don't say not being forward thinking as an insult. In this sense, I wouldn't be forward thinking either. This is such a big idea that you can't come with it half done and expect people to buy in. Right. So that's the reason I think he's not going to his bosses. But then again, that furthers the point that does Kenny Blakeney really have the power to do this? When did he get stock in the Howard men's program? Why is it, even if you can sell a team on the collegiate ranks, why is it the head coach's ability to do that? He coaches. Last time I checked, unless he is also an investor, who even owns Howard men's basketball? That brings another question to the forefront. Does Kenny Blakeney own a third of Howard's basketball? How does, I guess this is just very difficult. Because I gave you, right? I gave you 4 questions at the beginning that all ran through my head in 30 seconds. Those are 4 quick rapid fire thoughts, right? 4 rapid fire thoughts that went through my head immediately after I seen this article. But I guess I have one after talking for a little bit longer. If he's selling a third of the program or pitching the idea to sell a third of the program without talking to his bosses, does that mean that Kenny Blakeney owns a third of Howard men's basketball? Because that doesn't quite sound right to me. Selling a third of the team, selling a team period, does not sound like a head coach's job. It does not feel as if he has the power to make these decisions. And maybe maybe the next step is going to the person who has the power. Maybe that's it. But saying you want to sell specifically a third, that's a big deal. And I like where he's going with this. We want to have naming rights on the stadium. I'm for that. We want to improve our arena. We want to improve our facilities. I'm for that. But if you're selling, how do you still have creative control? I have a lot of questions when it comes to this. I don't have a lot of answers. I think that this is a phenomenal idea in principle. But then he also said he wants to move out of the MEAC with it. I don't love that in principle. But the idea of selling a third of the team to a party who is invested in sports, because I think he has the right idea of what to do with the money. That's the naming rights. That's the upgrading of facilities. But then I also think he's going after the right people. According to I'll just catch brain fart real quick. According to Blakeney, he's going to people who want to own NBA teams but don't have that kind of money. Well, if you go to somebody who's invested in sports, then they'll want to own a third of this, be a, I guess, majority owner. I guess, I don't know. But anyway, Blakeney has the right ideas. That's the moral of the story. Blakeney has the right ideas of what he wants to do with the money, which is the naming rights and improving of the facilities, and then also who to get the money from. When you're talking about people who want to own NBA teams but do not have the funds for that, you give them a slightly similar experience on a much smaller scale and a much more affordable scale so that they can still do that. You know that they're going to invest. You know that they're going to take care of their end of the bargain in every way that they need to, because you're investing $100 million. You know, like, this is not chump. Well, maybe to those people it is chump change. I doubt it, but to me, this is more than chump change. You just got to go through the bosses. Leaving the MEAC, going independent. We'll get into that on tomorrow's episode. We're going to revisit this because I think there's two sides of this coin that need to be visited. This is just very interesting. Also, to the idea of, can you do this? I've never heard of anybody wanting to do this. I've never heard this being done. I would assume that there is some sort of loophole to do it, right? I'm assuming there's some sort of loophole because something tells me they didn't fully think of this. So maybe you can find a way around it. If Kenny Blakeney is able to pull this off, if he's able to find the investors, if he's able to find the money, and he's able to sell a third of Howard men's basketball, I can guarantee you this will be one of the biggest seismic shifts in collegiate sports that you've seen in a long time. Because if Howard does it and it's publicized and people are going to talk about it, you can see a huge school. Think about the University of Texas. Think about the school in your state that generates the most money. I can guarantee you they'll have something lucrative lined up as well if this works for Howard. Now, as we continue, this isn't good news. Wow, this is such a drop-off. Patrick Crarey is being treated like an interim head coach despite earning a multi-year contract. He's now on a one-year deal with the FAMU Rattlers men's basketball program. Let's break down this injustice. Now, for real, I'm being hyperbolic, but let's break down this wrongdoing as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors, and eBay Motors is the only place that I will tell you to go for your car trouble. I made the unfortunate mistake of my car breaking down, and I had to get it done immediately. And I went to somewhere that was not eBay Motors. I can't tell you where because we're not doing the whole free promotion thing. But I made that mistake, and I looked at the price on eBay Motors. Had I ordered it from there instead of trying to have a quick fix today, I wish I would have saved that money. But yeah, so you go ahead and go to eBay Motors. You're going to get good quality materials at a good price. If I didn't have somewhere to go ASAP, that's exactly where I would have went. And trust and believe, I am regretting my impatience as I'm speaking to you. So don't be like me. Sometimes you have to have a testimony of what not to be like. You ever seen somebody, I don't want to be like that person? Well, for these 60 seconds, use me as that. Afterwards, be like me. But for right now, don't be like me and go to eBay Motors. Put your car into the My Garage section. Get the part that you need for your car and take care of your vehicle for a much better price. And trust me, you will be happy for it afterwards. Just go ahead and go to ebaymotors.com. Guaranteed fit. If not, get your money back. eBay Motors, let's ride. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Football. It's now a live stream 24/7 all day. Get ready for the collegiate football season. I cannot wait. Go ahead and go to Locked On College Football and subscribe. Now, segment 2, we're looking at Patrick Crarey, who has a very unfortunate situation, and that's the fact that he's getting the shortest end of the stick that I've seen in a long time from FAMU men's basketball. I am not a fan at all of how that the board of trustees have been treating Patrick Crarey. Now, if you follow the timeline of FAMU men's basketball, they announced that they were picking up Crarey as the new coach in April. We talked about it here at the end of April. Midway through June, we talked about what the finances were looking like. We broke down the contract midway through June. We're looking at, because this was last week, let's either say somewhere between the last couple of days of July and the first couple of days of August. This is nearly a 3-month span, 2.5-month span, and we're just now finalizing his contract. Not only that, we've changed what the contract looks like. It's not a multi-year deal. It's now a 1-year deal. They're treating Patrick Crarey like an interim head coach because they don't think he was the right man for the job. I don't know the inner workings of the board of trustees. I've had my own little board that has disrupted what I believe to be a head coaching opportunity, right? I've seen that on the home base. I'm talking about Texas Southern. I'm talking about Fred McNair. I'm talking about that situation. So I've seen this. Seen it at FAMU too. But we'll get into that in the bottom of the segment. This is frustrating because I don't think you're giving him a true chance. And I know that you changed it from 1 year or from multiple years, which was 3 at first, to now a 1-year deal. Are you also changing the finances? Are you also changing the incentives? Because I love the incentives that were paired with Patrick Crarey's contract. Let's see, $2,000 if he had a graduation rate of 85 or more, $1,000 for a regular season title, $2,000 for a tournament championship, $2.5 for a coach of the year, $1K for an NIT, $7K if he beats a Power 5 opponent, $2.5 if he makes it to the tournament, $5,000 for the first win, $1,000 for every win after that, $15,000 if he makes it to the Final Four of the big dance, and then $30,000 if he schedules $600,000 in guaranteed games. I'm just sitting here and I'm telling you, these are amazing incentives, and I don't know if he hits them. But if he hits them in year 1, does he get it? And I think there's some lies going on. Realistically, all of these are on the table, except for probably the $600,000 that may have already been crafted by this time. So I don't know if he would even get credit for that. But all of these other ones that happened during the season, the graduation rate, he deserves to keep those on his contract. But the doubt in him that they're lying about, I'm sorry. Look, I don't like to call people liars, but you either lying to yourself or you're lying to us. And I'm looking at FAMU trustee Kevin Lawson. And when I hear his words, they don't line up with his actions. They don't. And this is what he said. One could easily conclude that I'm not predicting success. What I'm trying to do is mitigate the risk. If I go with 1 year because I'm not 100% confident and the year is successful, then great. I'll go with the multi-year. That's every coach ever. That's 90% of the coaches. Only 10% of people hire slam dunk hires. I'm just making up percentages, but that feels about right, doesn't it? Only about 10% of people, 15 at the most, probably hire people who are slam dunks with absolutely very little risk. Even a guy like Chennis Berry is moving up a subdivision. He feels like a slam dunk. He's going from the SIAC to the MEAC. He could fail. Every coach could fail, guys. Every coach. So you're talking about you're mitigating risk. I'm not buying any of that. I'm not buying any of that. You told me with your words you're not 100% confident. If the year is successful, then great, I'll go with a multi-year. What if it's not? What if it's not successful? Now you just move on. I know that sounds dull. Well, if it's not successful, he's right. No. FAMU's won 13 games in the last 2 years. And you're telling me you're expecting this coach to come in and fix it immediately because you have a 1-year deal on him. What does promise look like? You know, it feels like a goalpost that can easily be pushed this way, pushed that way. What is success? Is there a definite level of success for them? Now, if they win 20 games, yeah, he was successful. No question about it. But if he goes from 7 to 10 to 11, if he gets near 500 in the SWAC, are you going to determine that that's successful? Or are you going to say that's not enough for us? That's not where we want to be. You have to give Crarey time. I'm talking about it like it hasn't happened yet. They should have given Crarey time to develop a program. But by a 1-year deal, you're making a judgment on him in significantly less amount of time than he deserves. And you know what? You want to say you're not predicting success. I'm not 100% confident, like mitigating risk. This is what I think it truly is. He says he gives credence to my point about taking time to rebuild a program. He says everyone knows it takes time in a program to rebuild. I get that. I want to be careful what I say because I'm not trying to be disparaging. And here goes the quote that gets me. Because he says he's not trying to be disparaging, but we all know that when you say no disrespect, some intense disrespect is about to follow. So Lawson says Not trying to be disparaging, but out of 50 candidates, this person probably wouldn't have finished in the top 5 of most races. What? It bothers me when I see some names on there, many of which I don't even know, but I look at their background and experience and wonder how we've got to this individual that's 2 divisions beneath where we are playing in the SWAC. I lean towards the person having a 1-year agreement and give them a contract based on how they do this year and revisit it later. I'm not saying that you're predicting failure, but I think putting that in there is very leading. I'm not predicting failure. Okay, but you have absolutely no belief. You're not trying to trust the process. You're not really giving him a process. A 1-year audition? This man had a 3-year contract. You've won 13 games in the last 2 years. This is despicable to me. Dante Jackson came from the NAIA ranks. I'm not saying that he is the norm, but what I am saying is it's happened in your division, in your conference. Like in your conference, that has happened. You have seen a NAIA coach come in and have a lot of success with Grambling. He won the SWAC tournament for the first time this year, but he's won the SWAC before. I mean, I think you will look around, and I think the person who doesn't know that many people on the list of resumes that he's looking at, have some trust in Tiffany Dawn Sykes. And that's the part, this is the part right here that gets me. The Tiffany Dawn Sykes Board of Trustees relationship cannot continue as is. There is absolutely no trust between those 2 units. Because I look at Dawn Sykes, and I look at the last 2 big decisions that she made in the 2 biggest sports on campus, football and men's basketball. I don't care what side you land on, there is clearly distrust there. They didn't like her pick for football. They don't like her pick for basketball. With football, that got deboed, and they went with their person. Once again, I don't care what side that you're on. I'm showing the line of distrust between the 2 people. This is not me picking a side. This doesn't need to be about you picking a side. And then you look at men's basketball. She said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and give this person a 3-year, $150,000 deal. They said, no, we're going to give them a 1-year deal, and we revisit it afterwards. Are you going to trust Tiffany Dawn Sykes or not? Are you going to trust Tiffany Dawn Sykes or not? That's what it all comes down to. Now, as you push forward, we have 4 HBCU players who are on the Buck Buchanan Award watch list in 2024. So let's break down those 4 athletes as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And I understand sports may not be sporting the way that you want them to, but that's okay, because with FanDuel all summer long, every single customer, every day of the season, you will get a daily boost or bonus. Now, sports not sporting, but hey, we got preseason football this week. College football 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away, depending on how you look at it. We have the first game day or first game week in 2 weeks. Sports are right around the horizon. Go ahead and put some money down on the futures. Go ahead and put some money down on the NFL week 1, the preseason, college football week 0. Everything is there. And if you're a new or existing customer, that's my favorite part. Is because so often we give this up to the new customers, right? We want to bring you in, but we want to reward you as well for being here for a while. Thank you. Go ahead and continue going to FanDuel.com and making every moment more. It's just that simple. Whether it's the MLB, the WNBA should be back very soon. Your the NFL, collegiate football, it doesn't matter. Go to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to make every moment more. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. I should throw my ones. Y'all can't see I got my Roman shirt on. The Tribal Chief. The Tribal Chief is back. SummerSlam, the return we all knew was happening, but it was phenomenal. And that's a man who, when he walks into the ring, you know he changes the complexion of the show. I want to break down 4 HBCU athletes who, when they step onto the field, they change the complexion of the game. And that is Kenny Gallup, Eric Hunter, Kelby Givens, and then also Kendall Bowler. 4 fantastic defenders and 4 HBCU athletes who are on the Buck Buchanan Award watch list. It's watch list season. I got that from Locked On LSU's host, Matt Moscona. I don't know if this is a real thing. I've never actually heard this time coined as anything, this time period coined as anything until he said it. So I want to give him his credit if he did come up with it. If he didn't, I'm just gonna give him credit for something he ain't make up, but it's okay. Locked on family, right? But this is watch list season. It's where you have preseason All-Americans, preseason All-Conference teams, preseason polls, everything preseason of teams and players to watch. This is no different. This is on a national scale. This is the FCS Defensive Player of the Year award, the Buck Buchanan for the best defender in FCS college football. So that goes for SWAC, MEAC, the A10, the CAA, the Patriot League, right? All of that. You get the OVC, Big South, right? Got to show Tennessee State a little bit of love. But this goes for all of that. And this is the best defender. Speaking of Tennessee State, they actually had the last Buck Buchanan Award winner, but he ended up transferring out in Terrell Allen. And on this list, you see two HBCU players who are the preseason Defensive Player of the Years in their respective conferences. You have Gallup and Givens. With Gallup, one thing that really I love about him is you watch his trajectory. You look at his first year. He's a 3-year starter, going on year 4. First year, second team on MEAC. The next 2 years, he was first team on MEAC. But one thing that he added to his resume in 2023, which was year 3 of his starting career, year 1, second team, year 2, first team, year 3, first team, and Aeneas Williams Award winner. So you see he continues to move up. Now, the proper trajectory could be Buck Buchanan Award winner. I think that is going to be difficult for him because he plays safety. There's only been one defensive back and is not a safety. We'll get to the corner at the end when speaking about Kendall Bowler. But overall, if he can keep that turnover production, if he can continue taking the ball away, I think he'll have a conversation for it. If he has to do that. I'm going to go through all the things that these guys have to do. Kenny Gallup has to continue to take the ball away. He has to have ball production in that capacity, not just pass deflections. He must be a turnover machine. Then you look at Kelby Givens. Givens is a guy who I imagine the belief is he's going to become a double-digit sack person. He was first in the conference in SWAC he led the conference in tackles for a loss. I always get him and Malachi Bailey confused. And if I've gotten you confused about Malachi Bailey, I apologize, and I hope that you can forgive me. But with Givens led the conference in tackles for a loss. He didn't have double-digit sacks, and he didn't lead the conference in sacks. He's going to have to upgrade to at least being a double-digit guy, and probably he's going to have to lead the conference in sacks as well as hit double digits if he wants to win this award. Sacks are just too valuable from his position. You can't get it by being just a monster on tackles for a loss, but not racking up those sacks. It's just not going to happen realistically. Then you go to Hunter. Hunter is going to have to hit 100 tackles. He didn't do that last year. He hasn't done that in his career, right? I think he has everything else. I love Hunter. Y'all know this. Hunter has everything to be a Buck Buchanan Award winner except for 100 tackles. If he does not hit that threshold, he will not win this award, point blank, period. I think he has a great chance if he does hit that total because he has the interceptions. He has the fumbles. He has the ability to play in multiple aspects. He has the pass rush. He has the tackles for a loss. He does everything else. But if he's going to win this award, he's going to have to get 100 tackles because that's what linebackers who win this award get. They are tackling machines. That's just the truth of the matter. Unless he just goes crazy with like 7 interceptions or something like that, 4 fumble recoveries or 4 fumble recoveries / forced fumbles combined. If he does that, then maybe. But you talk about long shots, and then you get to Kendall Bowler. And Kendall Bowler is a fantastic player. But he's a long shot because he plays corner. And there's only been one cornerback to ever win this award. And that was 2002 when Bethune-Cookman cornerback Rashawn Mathis won this award. And I know you think, well, Florida HBCU, let's run it back again about 2 decades later. No, there's a reason that no one else has done it. Because cornerbacks, they're dependent on certain things. And when Mathis won it, Mathis had 14 interceptions that year. Mathis set the record for the most interceptions in the FCS single season history, right? Like Mathis was different. And I think Kendall Bowler is a fantastic player. But banking on somebody to get 14 interceptions, most times they're going to stop throwing your way by that time. I wouldn't even let you get to 14 interceptions. Man, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? And then he scored a bunch of touchdowns on the punt return side, on the kick return. Like, interception return. He scored touchdowns too. There's just so much that you have to do because the value is clearly with linebackers and defensive linemen, specifically defensive ends. So I'll say this, though I think that Kendall Bowler is a long shot, what this is to me, because I don't even know what to tell you he needs to do to get it done. What this means to me is that Kendall Bowler is one of the best cornerbacks in the FCS across the nation. This is a pat on the back still. I may feel like the position is not valued enough to get the award, but he is extremely valued at his position. And that's not a silver lining. That's just the truth of the matter of why this is a big deal for his inclusion. Now, on tomorrow's episode, like I said, we'll come in and we'll talk about the other side of the coin because there's reasons that Kenny Blakeney wants to sell this team. And I want to break down those reasons because it's valid. And it's something that needs to be looked at because the state of collegiate basketball could leave HBCUs behind. And that's the reason he wants to make a change. Let's get on that on tomorrow's episode. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.